What up, everybody? Welcome to the Dad's Corner. We got dogs in the back. We got Tony at the office. We are all, it's a new year, new us. Let's go. What's up, buddy?
What's up, KrisellDaddy, man? I'm excited to be here. Excited to be chopping it up with you, man. It's good to see you on this side of 2025.
Yes,
Of a
sir.
new calendar, man. We got a new calendar to run, and I'm just excited. I'm blessed and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Let's do
Are
this.
you writing 2025 yet, or are you still writing 2024?
Man, I am so conscious of where I am and what I'm doing. I'm 2025. Like I'm 2025, man. It's
Yeah.
like that used to be a problem back in the day where you might end up writing the previous year and you might do it for a month or so. But as of late, just the focus has just shifted. And I don't know. I know I'm not the only one. I feel like a lot of people used to do that. A lot of people I mess with, we are the sum of those 5 people that we hang with. I mess with you because I know that you got that focus too, that eye of the
Hey,
tiger.
you know what? I started writing 2026 because I'm looking ahead.
Come on, man.
So that's all I'm saying is I was
Come
like,
on, man.
I'm already through with 2025. I'm ready for 2026. I'm ready to see what it's got in store. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about your post from the other day, because it took me a second to catch on. The
So
one that was,
exactly what you're saying. So exactly what you're talking about right now. So I said in 2025.
I'm gonna put it up because it threw me for a loop. When I first read it, I thought, man, Tony's, his kid's been sick. He might have been drinking. Like he's got the wording all off.
Look, so everybody, like I had so many people reaching out to me about that. Like, do you know what you wrote? You wrote 25, like January. We're just like, I think you did that wrong. I had my boss reach out to me. I had so many people, and they were just wondering what the heck I was even talking about. And I was talking about what's to come in the present tense. And that's just such a powerful thing, especially in the beginning of a new year. I think that a lot of times we hope for things, we say what I want to do, and then we don't actually visualize and attack it. So I wrote that I sold X amount of cars, 42 cars in the month of January. I had a video of a bunch of previous customers, but I wrote that because I want people to see themselves in that story, to be a part of it. And you write things down. There's so much power in the pen. And that was on Facebook, so it wasn't in the pen, but there's power in the pen, in the ability to write a thing down and to move towards that thing that you write down. And it's accountability. Like people hold me accountable to what I said. So one of my friends was like, we 3 days in, you already sold 42 cars. I said, man, it's already done. And so I'm glad that we're doing this episode because I think we're going to talk a little bit about goals. Like we're right here, New Year's resolutions. Do you
Yep.
make resolutions?
I do. So I'm actually a big, like you said, pen to paper. I've got 3 dry erase boards in my office, and I'm a big visualizer. If I write it down, if I put it up there, I get to look at it throughout the year. It kind of keeps me in check. And so what I started doing last year and what I'm doing this year is at church, we have 21 days of prayer. So right at the beginning of the month, 21 days of intentional prayer. I pray every day, but intentional prayer. Like, so you take 1, 5, 10, how many ever things it is, and you intentionally every day you set aside time for God to just pray about those things, not with your other prayers, but like I'm going to pray about these things in general. And so I make a list of like what those things are. What are the intentional things that I want to pray about? And then I make personal goals, and then I make business goals. So each dry erase board has their own thing. And so with the personal goals, like this year, it's, get to a certain weight. I've got that I want to read a certain amount of books. A lot of most successful business people read quite a few books. One year I had read that it was 60 books in a year. Most Fortune 100 CEOs read 60 books. Well, that's 5 a month. And unless you're getting some of them smaller ones, 5 a month is just a lofty goal. And so I hit a wall, like March, just because it was more than I had gone from basically not reading to like, oh, I'm going to get 60, and it just was unattainable. So what I like to do is I like to set monthly goals as
Absolutely.
well. Just something kind of rare. Like this month, I'm only listening to Christian music. And so I won't listen to anything but Christian music. Next month, I'll do something else. So what I did was said, okay, January, I'm going to just listen to Christian music, and I'm going to read 2 books. Next month is going to be 2. And then by the end of the year, I've got it worked up to where like December, I'm going to read 4. So I just set different goals like that. But health wise or personal wise, just want to pray up or just want to get close with weight, be healthier. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm getting rid of all negatives, but I just want to make healthier decisions and just try to do that better.
That's good, man. Bro, it is so important to have a target. Like, how do you know what you're shooting at if you don't have if there's not a target there? Like, and I think a lot of us we miss the target because we can't see the target. And so if we can see it, if we can go ahead.
Pause. All right. Start off with if we can see the goal.
If we can see the target, we can hit it. And a lot of times we miss our goals because we can't visually see the target that we're having. And so it's important to write it down, to visualize, attack. I've also got some health goals this year. Like, I am going to get down, bro. Like, and I've been already taking strides towards that, but a lot of it has to do with eating out. I'm going to eat out less, and I've not put a specific parameter around that, but we've been really, really working on that at the house, eating dinners at home, cooking a lot more, even at work, just trying to be conscious about the things that I'm eating whenever I am at work, either bringing a lunch or eating a little bit more clean here.
Well,
Financial
let's talk
goals.
about when you set real quick on that. When you set goals like the weight loss or eating at home, which is like a big one for us, because I mean, you have a bigger family than me, but I mean, just for us four, and we got two kids, like two smaller kids, just for us four to go eat, it's 60, $70. And that's not,
Easy.
and if you're like, well, I'm not going to go eat at a place like that. Well, now you're eating garbage and you're going to still
And you're
eat for
still
about 40
spending
bucks.
40, $50. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you set goals like that, I've used an acronym called SMART, and I know you've heard of it. We've actually talked about it before. When you're setting certain goals for the year, are you setting it based off of that, or some of them that you just set them every year, so they're just kind of like, this is what I want to do? Because I had never until probably 2 years ago heard that acronym. I just kind of set goals, but then if you take each and SMART is specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and then irrelevant, and then a time. Like you have to have a
Yeah.
time on it.
Yeah.
Because if not, if they're just open ended, you don't give yourself a chance to get it done. So do you do that with yours, or is it just kind of
So
me and
with my health goal, I need to get more specific. And so, like, I always have a word for the year, and my word for this year is a word that I've used in the past for a year, but it holds a different meaning for me this year, and it's just focus. Simply focus. And how deep can you take one thing? How deep can you focus in on something? Like, if you put something on a magnifying glass and you look at it, like, you're looking at it and you're looking at it real close. It doesn't matter how close you're looking, like, you're looking at it really close, but you only get to really see what it is that's in there whenever you start to adjust and you start to focus it in. And so I know that in the midst of having a goal or having something on that magnifying glass, I'm gonna have to continue to change the grain, and all of these things as we progress to actually gain that better focus of what that is. And so I've really just been doing a lot more studying on what that means for myself, learning my body type, like doing these different things to really just be better, man. And so, yes, they will eventually become SMART goals. I just know that I have a health goal right now, and I know that the first step is to not keep eating out like as much as I do. And so I'll start dialing that in and gain more focus on it. But there's so many other goals, so many other things, and it's just important that we are specific with them, even if they're kind of not dialed in right away. As we progress through this year, we got a lot of year left. As we progress,
whole lot?
it's important that we start dialing them in. Don't forget the overarching goal, but then dig deep to what those little nuanced pieces of that mean. I believe that if we can do that and continue to improve on those goals, that we can get, like, really, really, really good at one thing.
Well, so let's talk about this. So as a podcast, so we kind of started this last July, August. And it was more of just a let's get out there, let's start reaching dads. We've had a really big influx in the last few months, which has been great. It's been incredible. We have 300, little over 320 something subscribers. We've got we're almost at 20,000 views on our videos and stuff, which is incredible. What are some goals that you've thought about for the podcast? And I'll kind of let you know some of mine. So by the end of this year, I want us to have 1,000 subscribers.
That's a
I
good
feel
goal.
like that's easily attainable, and we should be able to do that. So anybody listening, if you can share this, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. That's what I, you know, a lot of times you hear that word and it's like, well, how much is it going to cost me? You can support your friends, me and Tony, just by sharing this, subscribing to it, liking it, and just getting it out there.
So we've
But
got what right now? We've got how many
we got
subscribers right now?
323. Let's see, 326 right now.
So we need three times what we have right now. So if each person that's already subscribed shares it twice, then we can accomplish
Yeah,
that.
and then views wise, I just think it would be awesome for us to get. We're at a little over almost 18,000. So if we can get 50,000, 50 to 75,000, we would kind of triple subscribers, triple views, and now we can start reaching more people. I've started to follow a lot of podcaster or accounts on like TikTok and
Yeah.
different places like that. There's a lot of movement in the dads community, and so I think it's going to be good for us to get this out there to more people who are just. I had a lady actually reach out to me and say, "Hey, I just want to let you know that." There's not really a space for dads and for guys, and so what you're doing is awesome. And those mean the world to me. Like that's way better than any payment just for somebody to say what you are doing matters. And it's like me and you talked about from the beginning. If we can just get one reach one guy a week, that would be incredible.
I think that there's a consistency, like, and you've done really well in consistency. I will say that you have been a staple to be able to allow us to be persistent and consistent. And so that is like for this podcast is my goal is to be more present with it and to actually start pushing it a lot more. So I believe that we can hit that goal, our the year goal. I think that's a great year goal, but I believe that we can hit it within half a year if we just stay consistent and actually push it. We always there's a thing where you set a goal and sometimes you start going towards a thing and you kind of start hitting the brakes because you're like, well, I set this goal for then and I don't have to do as much now because I'm already got some momentum, but there's also the compound effect. And if you continue to push through that momentum and go and allow the momentum to take over, man, it's crazy what we can do in a short amount of time.
So what do you
It's
do
crazy.
when you hit your goals halfway through the year? Whether it's weight loss, because weight loss is kind of one of those that everybody always tries to do, especially at the beginning of the year. But I feel like, and this happened with me last year with the dunking. I got kind of into August, September, or August, maybe September, October, and was at 9.5 feet. And then it got cold. I kind of stopped going to it. So when you get halfway through the year, it's a two-sided question. What do you do when you reach your goals early? Like if you've got a yearly goal to sell a certain number of cars and you hit that in September, how do you keep that drive going to finish out the end of the year? And then also, if you get to a certain point and you realize I'm not going to hit it, how do you keep the mindset to go, I may not hit that? Do you back your goals off a little bit or do you just get as close as you can and go from there?
I think that so there's a thing called fear of success and there's a fear of failure, but fear of success is funny because it's like we allow the energy of the universe to dumb us down, like the law of averages. It tries to keep you right here. And so, like what I was explaining just a second ago, like you get close to a thing and you're getting closer in a shorter amount of time. And a lot of times we tend to take a breath and kind of lax up on it. And if you continue to go through it and you are able to hit that goal, then you have to set a new goal. Like I said, if you don't have a target, then you'll just shoot anywhere. And so if you hit a target and it's moving from one mountain to the next mountain, once you get to a mountaintop, you can see that there's another mountaintop that you can go to. And then you have to get back down in the valley. But you get down in the valley with a renewed strength and knowing that I've already accomplished the thing that I set out to accomplish. And so that ought to allow you to have that success. But the fear of success, it says that whenever we get close to a thing that we that we kind of dumb it down so we can average ourselves out instead of going through and being as great as we possibly can. And I heard, did you see the Derrick Rose thing?
His number was retired.
Where his number was retired,
Yeah, I
but
saw like little pieces, but I
the
didn't.
most important part, Jason, was what he said to his sons. And so
The
his
good, not
sons,
great.
man, bro,
Yeah, I did hear
bro.
that part.
And
Yeah,
so that's the powerful thing, is going from good to great, and not just being good, but deciding to be great.
yeah.
Right.
But
So
yeah, so that's one of the goals, or a couple of the goals. But also, I just want to get more interaction with. I want there to be more comments, more just people coming back and forth, whether it's on social media, YouTube, any of them, just saying, "Hey, let's do. What do you think about this?" So I'd like for us to start having more questions for the community and more topics to where it engages people. And so if you're listening and you have anything that you want us to talk about, we've got a few planned that are going to be really, really good. But then outside of that, yeah, if there's a topic that you're like, you two should talk about or that I want to hear about, send it to us, because we're going off of our lives, but there's also lives that you and I don't even relate to or think about, that we need to give an opinion on and just see kind of where it goes from there.
I think also one of the goals that I have for this podcast is to do, and I keep talking about it, like just like having these long form content episodes, but also having some bite size episodes where we hit like a topic real quick, maybe a 10 minute, five, even a 5 minute, like quick hit on a topic. And I think that if we can hit that type of stuff, start putting that out on these different platforms, that's going to help us increase. So that's just kind of tactics towards the goal. And so before we switch into our next topic, I do want to add that. So it's important to have the goals, but then it's important to rework them. So that post that you were talking about, within the post, I worked out what that goal meant. I worked out how it was happening. And maybe that's how it will happen exactly. It's just a possible outcome. It's just a possibility. I've been watching Dune, bro. I don't know if you've seen Dune. And
Uh,
so it's like this guy, he can see into the future. And so, but not all futures are actual futures. So it's just a possibility. And so whenever you start writing down these tactics to get to a goal, it's just possible probabilities of an outcome and ways that you could get there. But it's important to have a plan to get to the goal. If you don't have a plan, then that's just like not having a bullet trying to hit the goal,
Well, and that's
trying to
why I
hit the
think a lot of
target. So
people too. It's hard to make a goal to where it's not a large goal, but also that too large that it's unattainable, but also so you don't want to go the other way and make it so small that you're like, oh, I've done it by the end of January, and now I've got the whole year to take off. So
granular, yeah.
it's finding the consistency. But just some stats on setting goals here. Just because whenever you said that, I brought it up what I had been looking at. Writing down your goals increases your chances of success by 42%. So just by writing it down, seeing it, being able to look at it, as opposed to keeping it in your mind. And it's kind of the same with lists. I mean, if you think about your to-do list, if you just go off the top of your head, you're going to get some of it done, but you're going to forget one or two things inevitably, especially if it's around the house. But if you write it down, then you check everything off and you can go, oh, yeah, I didn't do that. Just like a grocery list. You go to the grocery store, you need to get 50 items. You don't write it down, you're probably walking out of there with 42. So that's one of those. Break big goals into smaller goals. So if you have a goal that you want to write, that you want to sell, 400 cars this year, you can't just put 400 up there and be like, well, let's see what happens. You break it down into months, break it down into weeks. That way, if you're on track, off track, where you're at. And then also you've got to have deadlines. It can't be an ever-ending goal. You've got to have a stopping point, like you said earlier, just so I've got to get it done by this point. It puts a little bit of pressure, and pressure makes diamonds. Pressure is not always a bad thing. So it's got to be one of those where you realize, like, I've got to get this done, as opposed to, well, I'll just put it off. Because once you put it off one day, you're putting it off for a long time. So, and then lastly here, goals change your brain. Studies show that when you train your mind to think about what you want in life, your brain begins to rewire itself to attain it. So if you talk about it enough and you believe in it enough, you will start to just subconsciously change how you're doing things to get those goals. And so you got to talk about it, you got to write it down, you got to surround yourself with people who who want to help you reach your goals. If your goal is to quit drinking, you can't go hang out with people at a bar. Like, it's just going to make it harder. So,
You got
that's
to
just
set
my
the
opinion.
stage. I love that list. I appreciate you so much for sharing that. And I'm sure that our viewers are just like us, just like me, because as you were saying that, I was just thinking about little things that I can do to improve the goals that I've set, things that I'm already doing that tie in with those things. But I think we've always got room for improvement, and where we can really, be the best version of ourselves. Like I was saying, I don't want to just be good. I want to be great. And I'm sure everyone around me, that I'm intentionally surrounding myself with great people. So that's it. So yeah, man, goals.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
excited to set these goals with you, and I'm excited to hear the goals of the people that's listening. If you
Yeah,
want to
if you're
share your
listening,
goals, I'd
yeah,
love to hold you accountable.
tell us what your goals are this year. Tell us what some of your, mindset is going into this year. What's something that you didn't get accomplished last year you want to this year, but just some things that you're wanting to get done as a dad, as a guy, just as a human being, what you're wanting to get done this year. But a lot of what we're talking about today is, getting yourself ready to lead a better life. And one thing with leading a better life is being a leader in general. And I think as the men in our families, as the leaders of our families, we have a lot of pressure to lead in a certain way. And honestly, God lays it out pretty easily what your roles are as a man and as a father and as a husband and as a leader of your family. But one thing that we're going to talk about today is leading by example. I told the story before about Cope saying a word, at school. And although he didn't hear that word from me, I know some words have slipped before in front of them. And it's a humbling gut punch whenever you hear your son or daughter say a word and they heard it from you and you think, man, they're a sponge and I've got to watch what I'm saying. And so this year, it's really becoming a leader and leading by example. If there's something that your kids, a person told me one time, if your kids are doing something that you don't like, a behavior, maybe look in the mirror first.
Absolutely.
If your kids are screaming at each other, are you and your wife screaming at each other? If your kids are lying a lot, I mean that's something that kids learn. But do you lie? Have they caught you in a lie? Just things like that. If they're not eating, crazy enough, but if they're not eating certain foods, is it because you make a face when you eat them or because you don't want them? So there's a lot of things to go into that, but lead by example and just kind of touch on some of the things that you do as a dad or that you need, even this year with goals, what you need to do better.
So I think that there is sometimes a misconception that as a leader, as a provider, that's all we should be doing is just providing, is making sure that we got food on the table and money in the bank account. It's super important to do that, because we can't do anything without money. We can't we have to stay fed, and we are called to be providers and all these things. But I think that leadership is deeper than that as well. Like there's the emotional aspect of it. There's the mindset. There's, just there's all of these different things that go into it outside of just the financial aspect. And whenever you say like leading by example, like you're being mimicked, there's been many a times where I have told my child to do something and I've not done exactly what I was saying. And they have either called me out on it, or they've continued to do the thing because I'm doing the thing. And so, like, I've got a 1 year old now. So my son and I, we share a birthday. Our birthday was January 3rd. And so I've got a 1 year old. He's about to start running. He's like kind of walking, he's crawling everywhere. But I do this thing with him, and it's just funny. But I'll point somewhere and then I'll start crawling to another area. And he might look at where I point to, but he follows me to where I'm going. So it's like I can point over here and he'll look over there, and then I crawl over here. I get behind something, and he turns around and he's excited. He's engaged. He's enamored to come exactly where I am and to follow me to where I was. And so I think that it continues as we get older. It continues as they get older. They're gonna do that even more. They're gonna continue to follow your footsteps, the things that they see you do. they're going to start to do. Even the mannerisms. You see children walk just like their fathers sometimes. And it's not because their father was like, okay, you're going to step right here like this, you're going to step like this.
Yeah.
It's because they've watched them so much that it's ingrained in them. The way that they walk, the mannerism, the way that they talk, all these things. And so it is important that we are leading by example, and not just in word, but actually in our actions, the things that we're doing, that we are helping them and helping them understand that it's important that these things are important. The way that you treat your wife, whether you have little girls or little boys, the way that little girls see men and the way that they allow themselves to be treated, the way that boys see how you talk to a woman and see how you care for somebody and love somebody, like those are important aspects. Not saying that every man has a wife or every woman, and it's not that, but just the respect that you show other humans, they see
Yeah.
that as well. And
Yeah. That's, I mean,
yeah.
one of mine is, I've got a couple. One of them that I really want to is cussing, just because they pick up on words, and they're, you know, just words that, even though it's kind of funny when they say them, you don't want to open that door, that Pandora's box, to something later on that they're saying. And so I want them to realize that there's certain words, hey, that are just not okay. And it's easier if they just don't hear them. Or when they do hear them and they say them, we can say, who'd you hear it from? And it doesn't go, oh, as mom or dad that said it. Another thing is just quick to loudness, not anger, but just being loud and demonstrative instead of, and I think that a lot of times that comes from me. Casey's definitely not like that, but if they're about to knock a vase off the fireplace, like, well, then when Colin goes to knock something off, and Cope's immediately like, whoa, and screaming. And I see some of the mannerisms happen right there, and I'm thinking, crap, that was me. Like, that was me that, he probably saw that from, and how he did. But Cope's also got a really kind heart. He gets a lot of stuff from Casey, but he's at the age right now where we're trying to explain the difference between accident and on purpose. And whereas if Colin steps on him or kicks him, and he's got a split decision of whether that was an accident or on purpose. And I'm like, well, either way, you don't have to hit her back. Like, either way, there doesn't have to be anything back. But last night we had an instance where it happened. She stepped on him, and he kicked her back. I heard it all happening. I didn't see any of it, but I come in there. She's crying. And I said, what happens? Well, when I get onto him, he immediately breaks down. And I'm like, is it on accident or on purpose? And I'm like, don't lie. Like, the worst thing you can ever do with me is lie. So I'm like, don't lie. And he said, it was on purpose. And I said, okay. So I'm getting onto him, and I look at her, and I'm like, did you, because she stepped on him first. Come to find out, and I said, was it on accident or on purpose? She said it was an accident. So I'm lighting it, I'm getting onto him, like, you can't do this. This is your little sister. If you step on me, do I get to punch you? Like, if you accidentally step on me, does that mean I get to hit you, Cope? And he's like, no, sir. I'm like, okay, well, you can't do it to her. And then he makes a comment, and he goes, well, I hit her baby first. And I was like, now it's dawning on me what's happening. And I look at Colin, and I'm like, okay, so he hit your baby first, and then you stepped on him? And she said, yes. And I said, so was it an accident or on purpose? And I said, don't lie. She said, it was on purpose. And so I'm like, you just lied. Like, you're going to be in trouble for that, but don't hit your brother. And I looked at him, and I'm like, look, either way, don't hit her back. You're bigger than her. You're stronger than her. You can't do that. Now, granted, I've never hit Casey. That's not where I'm going with this.
Right.
But it's like how you respond to, there's been times where me and him are wrestling, and he'll kick me between the legs on accident. And it's hard to not have that, or he'll be swinging and hit me and slap me in the face. And you lose your cool as a dad, being like, dude, what are you? We don't hit you almost see him as a grown man for a second, like, you just slap me. And so I try to not do that, but I do catch myself when I do that, and then I'll notice he may react to a situation differently. And so it's like, all right, I've got to be a better leader, because if he is roughhousing with his friends and they accidentally kick him or slap him, I know he's going to immediately switch it on. I'm like, you can't. The first thing you can do is you got to take a breath. You got to collect yourself so that you don't say or do something you're going to regret. And I've spent a lot of my life working on that and trying to build off of that, because I used to be just fly off the handle. And it's hard to have this conversation, but I told him, you're going to end up apologizing a lot more. And I'll give you a chance in a second, but I want to tell this quick story about anger and being a leader, and something I learned from my dad, who had a short temper. Um, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. My dad was a gracious man. He was amazing. But when I was a kid, there was a short leash. And once the leash was, once I messed up, it was done. It was over. I was in trouble. And it seemed like it took a while to bring him back down from it. And so I was like, I don't want to be like that. That was one aspect that I was like, I don't want to do like that. And so I heard a story one time, and a son had anger issues, and he was getting in trouble at school, and he was getting in trouble at the house, and for just being mad. And the father said, I want you to do me a favor. He said, for the next week, he said, every time you're going to get mad, every time you're going to get angry, he said, I want you to take this hammer and nail, box of nails, and I want you to go put a nail in the fence. He said, okay. And so first week he goes through, there's like 50, 60 nails. He said, all right. As the weeks go on, they get about a month into it, and he's getting to where there's only one or two nails here and there. So finally, a few weeks later, he gets to where he's not hitting any nails in. He's controlled his anger. And so the dad said, okay, now every time that you get mad and you don't react angrily, he said, I want you to go pull a nail out. And so the kid goes out there, and every time he's going to get mad, he pulls but he doesn't do anything. He pulls a nail out. And he gets to the end, and all the nails are out, and he's controlled his anger, and his dad takes him out there, and he said, what do you see right now? And he looks at the fence, and he said, I see a lot of holes. And he said, just keep in mind, every time you got mad and you reacted angrily, you put a nail in. And that's how you're putting someone in their heart. When you're angry to them, you're hitting them with a nail. Now, when you say you're sorry, you pull that nail out, and yeah, that nail's gone. But there's always that little hole that was left from what you said. So even if you say you're sorry, there's always that little bit of a hole left from what you said. And after a while, there's so many holes that people just, even if you say you're sorry doesn't mean anything. And so it was like a very big story to hear of, you don't just get to react angrily, say you're sorry, and everything's fine. You're still leaving a void by doing that.
Man, Jason, I look forward to sharing that story with my son because and my daughter, like my daughters, we've been working on that exact same thing, emotional intelligence, how to control your emotions and not allowing your emotions to control you, because emotions can take you places where it's hard to get away from, it's hard to get out of. And so we've really been working on this a lot, especially my son. Like, kids, they have these emotions, they have them, and they don't necessarily know how to deal with them until we tell them and we show them how to deal with them. But you were talking about getting slapped in the face and stuff. Like, I remember baseball season, where you're trying to teach them little things, and I'm showing another kid, I'm out there, and I turn back around and get hit right in the, right where the sun don't shine. And I'm like, Dex, why did you? All right, you got to look at somebody whenever you throw. You got to make sure that you're making eye contact before you throw a baseball. You'll hurt somebody. You just hurt me, and all kinds of stuff. And so there's that initial where you want to just go off on something. And children, they don't know how to control that until they learn how to control that. And it's kind of like a catch-22. You have to go through it to understand how to control it. And so we've been working on, not allowing the first thing that comes to mind, not allowing that first initial thing, that first initial action, that response to be your initial action. And so I've been getting him to count to 10. I say, once you count to 10, once you take a breath and you count to 10, anything that you do is a choice from there, because you'll realize that you're not as mad as you thought you were. And if you do act out, then you made the choice to act out at that point. And so that's still a battle in itself. Like, we're working on that. But there's something that I tell them is to not be the thermometer, but be the thermostat. It's just getting cold out here. It's just getting cold out here. Whenever I come home from work, man, it's funny. Like, I'll come home because I'm wearing thermals, bro. It's cold. So I'm wearing thermals. So I'll get home and it's hot in the house. And I'm like, gosh, and I just gotta take all this stuff off and it's still hot. And so I'll control the thermostat sometimes. A thermometer will tell you what the temperature is. You can come in and put a thermometer in whatever room you want to, and it'll tell you what the temperature is. The thermostat controls the temperature of the room. And I think as leaders, as dads, like as the head of household, it's important that we are the thermostats and that we show our children, we show others what a thermostat does and how they can be thermostats whenever they go into certain rooms, how they can control their emotions and control the temperature of the room, as opposed to allowing whatever's going on around them to just tell them what temperature they are, to tell them how mad they should be or whatever. Like we have the ability to think. And so as we're doing these things, like there will be certain times where I'll come home and everybody's just quiet. Everybody's in their own little corner. There, you can tell that there's tension in the house. I'll be like, Tiffany, what's going on? She'll be like, oh man, Tyler, she's been tripping. Dex has been mad, like and so you don't want to meet that energy with like a tired energy, like, oh man, I'm done anyway. Like, okay, everybody just do your thing. And so it's important that we come in. To me, it's important that I come in and then I try to bring some good energy, some type of positivity, some fun. I might turn on some music. I might call everybody out and just say something crazy. I mean, there's all kinds of different things, but I try to help us as a family to not be down or to not just have this anger, especially to go to bed that way. We're never going to end, like, we're always going to pray at the end of the night, but we're never going to end the night without saying that we love each other, or we're not going to end the night in an angry mode. Like, we will talk it out, we'll figure it out. And it doesn't always work. Like, sometimes they go to bed and they're kind of upset, but they know that it's love in the house. And so I think that's important, man, is to be the thermostat, not the thermometer, and to help them understand what that means, man.
And kind of just on the whole, keeping your emotions in check. Jordan Peterson said this, and I think it's really good for guys because we're always told men feel like we can't express our emotions, and to a certain extent, I do agree with that. You shouldn't just be whining all the time and be, let's talk about it, because I think the more you talk about something, the more you give it power. But Jordan Peterson said this one time, and I'm gonna read it. It said, "Everyone says, well, you should be harmless and virtuous, and you shouldn't do anyone harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be assertive." He said, "No, that's wrong. You should be a monster, absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war." And so it's just one of those about the most powerful guy in the room is not the loudest, not the biggest, not the most demonstrative. It's the one who's sitting over there in silence, knowing he's got all the feelings in the world, he's got all the emotions in the world, but he's keeping it in check. That's the guy you need to be worried about. That's the guy in the room who is confident, and that's who we as men need to be. You need to be confident, you need to be assertive, but you also need to be quiet. Like my grandpa and my dad's dad, who I respect so much, even as he's getting older, he's obviously quiet now, but he was quiet back then when he was, younger. And I always admired that because when he spoke, people listened. And I feel like that's a quality I want to have, is that I am a lot louder and more outgoing than he was, but everyone knew when he was sitting over there and quiet, it was because he was thinking and he had something to say. And whenever you asked him, or whenever he did get ready to speak, people listened. And so I think that's something that we all strive for, is we want to be heard, we want to be respected. But I think a lot of times by trying to get that respect and to be heard, we talk too much
Mm,
and we speak too much about stuff. And so I've always found, I love Jordan Peterson, love to hear him speak and talk,
yeah.
but I've always found that super inspiring. You'd rather be a
A
warrior in a
warrior in a
garden than
garden
a
than a
gardener in a
gardener in a
war.
war. Goodness. That is atomic bomb. That is an atomic bomb, bro. That was so fire. I think that's it. I think that's it. I think we leave it right there. Being a warrior in a garden and not a gardener in a war. Like, we have so many gifts, so many blessings on our lives. We have the ability to achieve goals that we set for ourselves. We have the duty to lead in our household, in our communities, at work, wherever we are. We have a calling on our lives to be the best versions and not to just be good, but to be great, because that's how God made us, is unique and great. And so I encourage everyone to be the leader, to be the thermostat and not the thermometer in your household, to help and guide and truly be everything that you're called to be, everything that you mean to be. And I hope that you hit your goals this year. I hope that if you need any assistance with your goals this year and I can do anything, please allow me that opportunity, because that's one of my big goals, is to be able to give back, to help more, to serve. And so I appreciate you, Jason. Man, I think this was a bomb episode right here.
Yeah.
I know that if you listen to this far, if you're here, you know it's a bomb episode. You probably took some good stuff out of it.
And I was telling Casey the other day, we were talking about it, and I was like trying to be the leader with just certain things that we were talking about. And one thing I pulled her to the side and I said is, I was like, hey, I think that you're drawing your eyelashes too high. And she looked surprised.
Oh. Hey, Jason, it's getting really cold outside, bro. It's getting so cold outside, man. And so I had one for you. Do you know what they call a snowman with a 6-pack?
Snowman with a 6-pack.
Besides a good time.
Abdominal?
The abdominal snowman. Abdominal
nice. Snowman. Well, I had a joke about construction, but I'm still working on it.
Hey, you were making mention of it, bro. I know that whenever y'all were out in Italy, y'all saw a lot. But do you know what sound grapes make whenever they get stepped on? They don't say much. They just kind of whine a little bit.
That's four bangers.
I mean, bro, let's go.
Bangers. I mean, geez. Hey, great episode. Loved it, man. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining. And hey, one last thing. Shut the dang door, man. Let's go. Absolutely. It's cold outside. Shut the door. Don't let the heat out.
Hey, man, you can't heat the whole neighborhood. I yelled it 3
times yesterday.
You can't heat this neighborhood up. Y'all better shut that door. You trying to heat
the whole outside?
What you doing? What you doing?
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Jason.
Adios.